37th parallel on America's haunted highway, it's Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another special episode of Pixelated Paranormal. This is part 2 of our 7-year anniversary special. That makes it episode 282. I, of course, am Sean. I'm drinking a spicy pickle beer. With me, as always, of course, is Preston. Preston, how are you, bud?
What's up, all you coolcos and goblins, you crococoons and crocodingos, you dudes and duets and skeletors and skelettes? I'm a fucking fancy bitch, and I'm drinking a fucking pre-mixed margarita out of a can.
Nice, look at you go, buddy.
Watermelon.
And, of course, the other beautiful face on screen is Big Steven. Big Steven, welcome back, buddy. 2 in a row.
What's going on, everybody? That's right, 2 in a row. Had to come back for the part 2. And I'm drinking the Summer Breeze, or Summer Freeze, sorry. It's like a bomb pop. Right, Mountain Dew, or not.
How is it, man? You like it?
It tastes like a bomb pop.
Nice. I like it.
And it's got caffeine to keep me awake. Been up since 4:30 this morning, so.
Gross. I have.
Tired.
Yeah,
Energy
I went
drink
to bed
and
at...
cocaine will keep you awake, you know.
Right.
Look what it did
Do you
for
mix
Gary
it in the
Busey.
drink and then chug it?
Nah,
Yeah.
I don't fuck with that.
Yeah.
Don't fuck with the cocoa.
Worked for Gary Busey. Look at his face.
Ugh.
Well, guys, let's get back into it. On this episode, we're answering your Ask Us Anything questions and also sharing more listener stories. So before we do that, why not some more news? That's what I always say, boys. I got one special story for you. A person was recently busted trying to bring in an 8-inch pair of scissors into an Indiana jail.
Is that another name for it?
Smuggled into their prison pocket. That's right, folks. An unnamed person was recently booked into LaPorte County Jail last week. Initially, they were reluctant to have their body scanned during the intake process, so the sheriff's office did due diligence and said, no, fuck that, we're going to scan your ass. Literally. Turns out they had a good reason to not want to be scanned, because the initial scan showed what appeared to be a foreign object inside the anal cavity. A second scan would go on to show the object was indeed a pair of metal scissors.
Ugh.
The implement, in air quotes, was removed without incident. Giving no details about the extraction process, the deputy said it was without a hitch. The sheriff's office then said the jail's body scanner previously led to additional seizures of tattooing equipment, drug paraphernalia, and miscellaneous foreign objects before the scissor smuggling incident happened last week. So that brings us up to the icebreaker question, boys. What's the weirdest thing you ever put in your butt?
Nothing. But I'm around people in the medical field all the time, and goddamn is it common.
So,
Holy shit.
my grandmother, who was fucking like old
Literally.
school and like German, she didn't carry like a regular like thermometer in her mouth, you know, that you could put in. So if I was like spending the night at grandma's and I had a fever and I was a little kid, I always had to get the thermometer up the butt because she's like, that's the only way to check your temperature. So that would be like
the correct way. You'll get a proper reading, little pressy.
Yeah.
I'm going to check our audio real quick.
Does it sound good, Schnookums?
Yeah, where's the producer at, man? It's kind of messed up.
Yeah,
Kevin,
I know.
Where the fuck are you at? Fucking building Lego sets in your underwear, not paying attention to us.
Underwear.
Goddamn, is it common?
Yep. Sounds good. We're good, boys. Okay, cool. Well, like
Sweet.
I said before, let's get to the real question, shall we? John asks, what do you guys think about vampire lore? Were they based on truth or ignorance of science? Preston, why don't you take the lead, bud?
Who asked this question?
John,
John.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Go figure, right?
Man, that's a
Oh,
tough
wait,
one.
hold on. This is funny though that the main vampire guy is asking us.
Yeah.
That's you know what I'm saying about
Well, I think he
vampires.
wants to know what our personal opinion is. I mean, John's the forward leading expert among all the people we know on vampires and lore, but I think he wants to know like where we stand.
So basically, he wants to talk to the kindergarten kids while
Yeah.
the
Okay,
adult
kids.
listens. Yeah.
Sean, your brother says mom and dad say hi. So Mr. and Mrs. Swope, thank you for tuning in tonight. Glenn,
Heck
sir,
yeah.
thank you for your
Oh
service.
man, so
I miss
we're
them.
watching live at my parents. So
Yeah,
I
you're the
definitely
fucking
gotta.
man,
Wait,
Glenn.
are you? Wait, hold on.
fucking
Are they
man.
like around a phone or a TV or
I'm
a
sure they're
computer?
probably around Kevin's phone, most likely. So
That'd be hilarious if you cast it to the TV. Your mom would be like,
you
"Oh,
probably
look
could.
at
He's
my
smart enough.
son on TV. He's famous."
Now I feel like a jackass for saying Kevin was probably in his underwear. Now that I know that your parents are watching.
He can sit his underwear around his mom and dad building Legos.
I mean,
of course.
it's just like a 6-year-old just comes into my parents' house just wearing tidy whities and a bag of Legos. All right, let's get started. Someone cue up the Aladdin cartoon on Disney.
No
I would be
shit.
notoriously late getting ready for school in the morning when I was in grade school because I just wanted to eat cereal and watch Aladdin.
Oh,
Green Grand
Leslie says hi too. Leslie, thank you for joining us with
Hi,
the
Leslie.
hubs. We
What's
appreciate it.
Nice,
Indeed.
nice.
What
So
was
nice.
the
I miss you guys.
what was the Irish vampire that we covered? Albatroche. That's
I'm sure. John.
You're right.
Let us
we need an
know.
adult.
yeah. So, anyways,
The Abar talk.
there you go. So he kind of was the forebearer for, at least in some authors' eyes. John, you might be able to back me up or say you're full of shit on this, but some historians say that was the true inspiration for Bram Stoker. And when you go back and read that story, so they actually found the village, they found this rock, and when they tried to move it, weird shit happened. So, it's the paranormal, man. Science cannot touch the paranormal sometimes. I think we have a limited understanding of what's beyond the veil and how the universe works. And in Islamic traditions, vampires are more like a special type of jinn that inhabit the other world that sometimes bleed over into ours. And we don't have a true scientific understanding of that. So I think some of the folklore of like silver and garlic and all that weird shit. I mean, the Irish guy that's under a rock had to be buried upside down with like hawthorn twigs all around his body. Or otherwise, if you move the rock, the fucking end of the apocalypse is going to happen. And they said that when somebody tried to move the stone, like they used like a big giant chain around it to try to move it with a bulldozer, and it split the rock, and the guy's blood got in there, and they heard like weird sounds. I don't know. I wouldn't fuck with it, but part of me was like, fuck it, let's go dig it up ourselves. Let me go kill a vampire.
Just get in there, right? Yeah. You know what? I won't mess around with pentagrams, but I'll definitely help you, dig up a vampire. So as long as there's no pentagrams around, we'll be fine. John actually gifted me a really cool book called Dracula, Prince of Many Faces: His Life and His Times. I've yet to read it yet, John. It's on the docket for this summer. But also, he hit me up, and I mentioned this book before back when we did our 3-parter on death and dying. Paul Barber's Vampires, Burial, and Death. Let me get that out of the shine there. John hit me up and told me that, hey, on eBay there's this book and you really need it, and it's like dirt cheap right now. So I bought it blindly. Haven't read it yet, but that's definitely something we're going to dig into deeper, maybe closer to the Halloween time, John, this year's vampires and so on. But I don't know, man. I want to believe in everything, but I think on the folklore side, like you said last time, Preston, we're a show about folklore and storytelling predominantly. I think it's interesting that you have the idea that there are vampires. You have bats and all that kind of stuff. Somebody asked the other day why. Somebody asked me, was it on Facebook? Somebody asked the other day anyway, why vampires turn into bats and why they wouldn't turn into like a mosquito or something like that. And like all this stuff goes back to biblical times, like Lilith and everything else. And the idea with bats is that they're unclean and they're unbiblical, and so were bats. So anything we didn't like back in like the 15, 16, 17, and 1800s, we blamed it on the Bible. It's unclean, it's unbiblical, so it's bad, and so we just cast it in that negative light. So you already have, a lot of stuff stacked up against anybody who's anemic or has any kind of blood disease. But I think that with vampires, the folklore side of it's interesting because you also have cases of people getting buried alive and being accused of being vampires, and so they threw them in a coffin and shoved a stake in their heart and buried them, and they dug them back up a week later, and there's like claw marks on the inside of the coffin, and so they're like, yeah, good thing we buried Jim because he's a vampire. You can tell because he scratched the inside of the coffin.
No, he just killed his ass.
Yeah, you hit him with a pike and you threw him into a dark hole, and yeah, he's trying to claw his way out. So I think it's a lot of misidentified science. I want to believe that we have people like Dracula and Bela Lugosi and Nick Cage running around and stuff like that.
Nick
But
Cage.
I mean, shout out to Renfield. I don't know, man. I want to say predominantly it's going to be a lot of people misidentifying science, or at least people misidentifying and misunderstanding science has led to the vast misunderstanding and prejudice against the idea of a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, what do you think, man?
Man, I don't really know much about vampires. They're kind of like my least interested thing in the horror. I come from a more horror aspect than the more paranormal aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just because like the whole like vampire and like romance angle, they're really like intertwined together. Maybe that's why it didn't appeal to me so much as a younger. It's definitely gotten more interested to me over the as an adult. But I think honestly, all jokes aside, that probably has to do with John. He's very intelligent on it, and he makes you look at the lore and the movies and all that shit totally different. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
For
when you're around people that really like that certain subject. You know, I know we bag on John a lot for being the Dracula guy, or the vampire
I just
guy.
look up to him, man. I wish
it's dope.
yeah, I wish I knew enough about like
Steven is Team Jacob now. Werewolves are cool
way
too, but like I don't know. I've just never been into either one of them. I do think that they're underrepresented in video game, and unfortunately, I was really looking forward to the newest one, the Xbox game. Shit, I don't even remember the name of it now. It's skipping my brain. Yeah. It literally just came out and it bombed so hard. Redfall. It's all about vampires and stuff, and like this whole town that gets taken over by this like paranormal entity, and it looks really cool. But unfortunately, it was a shit show of a broken game. But I don't know. Vampires and werewolves, they're not represented good in video games. And every once in a while, you'll get like a really good TV show or movie and stuff. But so I don't know. But whether it's like more based on science or faith-based stuff, I think it's more faith-based stuff than science.
Okay, yeah,
it's too on the nose with all the cliches of the different faiths, and
if we take your dog and make him pee into a cake and we feed it to Jerry and Jerry starts screaming, he's a vampire. Get him in the heart, boys. Yeah. Chop his fucking head off.
Yep.
Can you imagine like dying, being accused of being a vampire? Like, that would suck. Like your whole family hates you.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, it was just like the Salem witch trials, man.
Yeah,
like,
it'd be so terrible.
It just got to where, like, if you got pissed off at someone down the street, you just blame them for being
I would have been killed a long fucking time ago. No lie.
Yeah. I would have killed you in high school. We would have killed each other in high school.
If you think about it like today, like if somebody accused you of something today, like your family's like, that's bullshit. We'll stand behind you, like whatever. But then back then they're like, what's this? I hear your son's a vampire. You're like, fucking let's go get him right now. Let's hang him from a tree. That's not my kid.
Yeah,
this is son of the devil.
The kid's like,
fuck him.
Now the kid's like, hold on, let me get my phone and TikTok it real quick. Oh, my fucking dad thinks I'm a werewolf. Look at this idiot.
Yep.
Good question, John. Hopefully we answered right. hard for me to
Yeah,
answer stuff
a lot
like
of
that.
pressure on that episode when we do a dive
Yeah.
into vampires, man.
Yeah.
Have to
He
have
will.
John.
He'll be fucking fact checking us, pushing his glasses up.
Yep. Yeah, he'll have to be our
Pushing the
chat
keys.
Yeah,
GP for
John,
that
if
episode.
we
He'll-
do an episode on vampires, we're just going to go ahead and set you up with a video camera and have you Discord in, and you'll be the special guest because us three fucking nerds don't know anything about it. We need an expert to keep us in line, so be prepared.
Yep, exactly. Well, for our next listener story, if you're watching live, then you're going to want to look up an adjacent live show we did a couple weeks ago titled 7th Anniversary Bonus Listener Story with Lazarus Corbeau. Because that bad boy is like a 40-minute long video in itself, and we're not smart enough to input that video into a live stream for y'all to watch now.
Oh, no,
so
I could.
just do us a favor.
It would just make this
Could
show
you?
way longer than what it needs to be. So
Okay,
if you're
fair.
listening on the
I stand
podcast,
corrected.
yeah, enjoy for live streaming. Get off your lazy asses and go click on the link.
when we're done, watch that
Yeah.
link. But yeah, if you're doing the audio podcast, like Presto just said, we're now going to drop in a 40-minute long conversation with Lazarus Corbeau, a gentleman who we hope to do a lot more projects with, and he's invited us to his show. And Preston, on our email, which you need to figure out the password to again so you can get back on, he sent us some animations and backgrounds to use as well on our show. So we'll have to get you back in there so we can.
Thank you.
Damn,
kind
he's the
sir.
homie.
Yeah.
He is, man. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm waiting to hear back
Awesome.
from him as far as scheduling goes of when we can join him. But any hoozle, for you fine folks listening to the audio podcast, enjoy our conversation with Lazarus Corbeau about DMT alien abductions. This is the magic of editing, folks. So again, huge thanks to Lazarus Corbeau for joining us, and thanks for the unbridled fear of ever trying DMT or anything else of the sort, because now I'm too scared to even
Hell yeah,
experiment.
man. He saw the shit, man. Him and Joe Rogan, they're cruising.
So I
Right,
thought about
right.
this I thought about this the other day.
You thought about
So-
doing DMT?
Well, no, hold on. Kind of. So here's my thing. So if you go to a float tank and you spend like at least 20 minutes into a float tank, your brain automatically releases natural DMT that your brain produces. So if I go take a picture of Lom from Aleister Crowley, print that, tape that to the top of the float tank, and then sit in there and just float. After 30 minutes, it releases the DMT. I'm floating, staring at the thing. I think I could summon the entity Lamb that way without
Oh my
having,
god.
having to go get DMT and do something illegal. I'm just saying.
They'll talk about that. I think it was just the other day I was listening to it. Joe Rogan and Jelly Roll were on there talking about being in a float tank on just edibles. And if you were on edibles of marijuana in a float tank, like Joe's like, it's terrifying.
I'm
He's like,
sure it would be the
He's like, it's
paranoia.
fucking he's like, it's terrifying. He's like, don't do it. And then I was like, so you said that, and I was like, oh my god, dude, like, I don't know.
Yep.
I mean, I've been in a float tank like
That's-
3 times and like, still cold sober, and it's like freaked me the fuck out. So I can only imagine if you're a fucking high as balls getting
Yeah.
in one of those things.
Exactly.
Oh, God,
Presto,
yeah.
back off your mic about a couple, 2-3 inches, a little bit.
How
if
about
you
right
He was
there?
getting excited about the Crowley and the
Fuck
DMT.
yeah, it was. I was chubbing up.
He
I'm
just
like,
doesn't
yeah.
listen. Watch. In 5 minutes, he'll be right back on it like this, just frying that mic.
He's like a kid in an amusement park.
He's a kid who
Yeah.
doesn't listen. All right, Israel wrote in. In high school, I had a teacher that taught us computers, and he would always talk about how he had been abducted by aliens before and would go into detail about the abductions and stuff like that. One thing that's always stood out to me and always made me question what we thought is real or not. That's why I started looking into the paranormal. So what moments in your life drew you into the paranormal and made you think to yourself, you know what, I need to go into this rabbit hole?
Can
Steve,
I
you
go
go
first?
first, buddy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
man,
gonna say, can I go
please.
first? I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose this train of thought that I'm on. So let me write this. Let me write this down real quick.
You're gonna write it down now?
Yeah, well, no, just as because I already
Okay.
have my answer. I want to make sure that I don't lose
Okay.
this train of thought. Okay,
Awesome.
so this is kind of like a two-parter. So first off, Israel is that teacher still around? Because we need to get that interview. You know what I'm saying? Let's make that shit happen. You know what I'm saying? But he's probably not. They probably finally took him home to the home world. So, or he's disappeared because kids are terrible these days, and who wants to be a teacher? But yeah. So my introduction to the paranormal, I don't really get into the rabbit hole like Sean and Preston do. They can dig and dig and dig. I let them do the digging and I listen. But my introduction to paranormal was definitely obsession with movies, video games of the sort. When I was younger, just being introduced to alien movies, and not like nothing against ET. It's an amazing movie, but not like the friendly ones, like the really terrifying ones.
Yeah.
From the cheesy terrifying to like the really terrifying, and then like my dad telling stories as a kid. Like I've told the story a long time ago on the podcast, but my dad being in like a Boy Scouts, Pueblos, like Cub Scouts type thing, and them teasing him, trying to get him to come outside, and he finally comes out there, and then they're all looking up in the sky, and there's just this light that's going very fast all over the place, and then it just disappears, and that always like really interested me back in the day whenever he told me that. And then it's funny whenever he was telling me this story, I was gonna kind of like vibe off of this and ask you guys a question too. Did you guys ever have any teachers that were kind of like cool into that paranormal? I know Sean, we probably have a mutual one in our high school days with the art teacher.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Wise. He's kind of a weird dude, and like into that weird shit. And always.
What are you saying? All of us? Are you saying all of us art folks are weird?
Yeah, definitely.
I prefer to be called
eccentric.
Eccentric, I think, is a nicer way.
True.
Yeah.
Interesting
We
individuals.
prefer to be called eccentric.
Hey, Steve, my son says that you need a one versus one him in Fortnite, and I said you would own his ass, and he was no.
I would not own his ass. He would totally tear me a new one. Bring it on an Overwatch, and we'll call it good. No, I'm joking. I'm not good at competitive stuff, but we could totally play games sometime. That Diablo's coming out. I'll carry on that. Get you some good loot.
Yeah.
6'6",
Daddy
23.
already pre-owned that.
Fuck yeah. So, but back to the thing. Having a teacher like that, it's always easier to connect with a teacher like that, and him bringing up this question is really, really important because teachers don't get enough credit these days. And
for sure, man.
Shout out to Mr. Raines in Little River, Kansas. When I was in foster care, I went to this amazing high school experience for myself, K through 12, all in one building. And there was this one teacher, Mr. Raines, and he was so dope. He was the very first person ever that showed me Evil Dead. And and he explained to us at that point Evil Dead 1 and the transition from Evil Dead 1 to Evil Dead 2, and then why he did it, and it was really important for him to show us that. And he was like I don't remember what fucking teacher he was, forensics or something like that. It was really weird, but he was like, he was so cool. But I'll always remember that because just seeing something like that. And then he was like, and since we were into that, of course, when we were younger in that era, this was probably right after 9/11, if not right before it. We were just obsessed with seeing the gore and shit like that, and and then just the crazy zany stuff of it. And then he showed us this other movie, and I wish I could remember for the life of me, but it was just so over the top with these death scenes with these bullets and stuff. It had nothing to do with paranormal, just ultra violence, and it was just so 70s and just over the top.
Are you sure this wasn't me pretending to be a teacher?
No, right? Yeah, dude, it was wild. So this gave me that thought of that. So yeah, that's what got me into it. But I do, when I hear your guys' answers, I do want to hear your answers on the teachers' side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been geared artistically towards art teachers, man. Mrs. Hermreck back in grade school, Mrs. Knuckles in middle school, and then meeting Frank, Mr. Wise in high school was just oh my God, this guy's just fucking amazing. And Pete Henderson was awesome too. We had a really great teacher there. Before that, in grade school, I had Mrs. Barrier, who was my 3rd and 4th grade teacher, and she did nothing but support you and promote you to do the things that made you happy. So I mean, that was really big for me, was just wow, I can be an artist and I can be a little weird. I remember once Mrs. Barrier Tell your son to put a shirt on, you hippie.
Look at him look at him waving. He loves it.
Preston's getting accosted.
He is. He's
Now
yelling,
we have
but-
to have
oh
a
my
nude
God.
alert on this episode.
Yeah.
No, I
NSFW.
remember like Mrs. Barrier was just rad, and I'll bring her up again later, oddly enough. But I remember what was so cool about her is I didn't care to read that much when I was little. Like reading's fine, but like nothing interested me. But I fucking loved comic books. And I remember once like Mrs. Barrier introduced in 3rd grade the idea of like, hey, every day we're going to have a reading period. And I didn't know about Goosebumps yet at this point. But I remember I snuck in like Punisher war journals where it was a gnarly episode or issue where Punisher's fighting Jigsaw, and it's just like blood and guts and bullet holes, like you said, Steve, and like bloody bandages and stuff
Wait,
like
from
that.
like Jigsaw from the movie Saw?
No. There was
Yeah.
a okay. No, Punisher's arch nemesis.
What up,
But
Puffins?
she's like, bring books from home and read. So I brought a comic book and I'm reading it. And like this girl, I forget who it was. She was so disgusted that I was reading a bloody comic book. She told on me. And like Mrs. Barrier
Mitch.
said, okay. And Mrs. Barrier said, all right, Sean, she called me Maynard. All right, Maynard, bring it up here. And so I brought it up to her desk and she looks at it and she's like, huh, that's kind of neat. All right, honey, I'm going to have to hold on to this till class is over. I was so bummed out. Like, oh no, come on, Mrs. Barrier. And then later she like, my parents were at the school for something and like, she gave me back the comic book and I was talking to my parents and she's like, so like this came up and your son's reading this comic book and it's very interesting, very action packed, but like, I just want to let you guys know he's reading. Like he's actually engaged in reading. So for a little while, for the time being, he can bring comic books to school. They need to be a little more, appropriate, not so violent. But I'm just like, even at a young age, I'm just
They
thinking,
went and
like,
got you,
holy-
Barney.
You're right. No, I had a shit ton of garage sale comics, man. It's probably Spider-Man. But I just remember thinking like, holy shit, not specifically those words, but like, she's letting me read comic books. This is so crazy. An adult in school is like, you can read comics. But any hoozle, man, she was a badass teacher. I love Mrs. Barrier so much. She ended up being my 3rd and 4th grade teacher. But I never had any teachers that really specifically talked about, the paranormal. But I mean, what kind of got
They
me
didn't want to get fired.
right.
This fucking
I don't know,
nutbag
man.
over here.
I could probably ask Frank now if he ever had any weird experiences. But no, I
He's
think
like, how much time you got?
You're right. To go back to Izzy's question, I think part of what got me into it is unsolved mysteries, of course, watching those shows and seeing ghosts and UFOs and stuff like that. And there was a really great TV show back in the 90s called Sightings that would come on. And it's kind of delivered as more like a news story show where it's like, okay, and now in Brazil, 3
I remember
girls said
that.
they encountered a demon. And that was like, I forget what it's called, but shows like that really got me interested in it and kind of like made my antenna, kind of perk up. But also like weird shit would happen when I was little too. Like I'm pretty sure the basement was haunted. Like I'd hear voices and see shadows. And I know some of that was just, shadows casting on the wall in my own imagination. But there's so much stuff that happened, it's hard to believe it was all just figments of my imagination. But before I ramble on for another hour, Preston, what got you started? What made you think, I need to start investigating this shit?
The man, the myth, the legend, Big John Wiener himself.
Boom, boom,
Fuck
boom.
yeah.
It's I would look back and say that if like this show, for example, I feel like this show is a safe place. So you can come on, you can share your stories, and you have 3 guys that are going to be into that fucking story. Now, we might not believe you, but we're going to be into that story. We're not going to judge you for it. And so Dad always gave me that safe place to where he would, like my brother, God rest his dumb soul, was like, I'm going to be
He's not
Buddhist.
dead. Your brother's
I
very
was like,
much
did
alive.
he pass away?
Fuck's
I
sake.
could, if
God
I could only
love
get
him
that,
would be
if I could
inappropriate.
only get that lucky.
Oh
God.
my God.
Yeah.
Fuck's
So,
sake.
7th year anniversary special. You heard it here
Hey,
first.
Kevin, just so you know, I love you and I'm happy you're still
Holy
with me. And I
shit.
never
Hey,
speak of you in the
Kevin.
past tense.
Kevin, I love you too. I just want you to know that.
Oh my
But,
God.
So, but no, the point I was getting at, so like, Jason decided he was going to be Buddhist, and Dad's like, like that's fucking dumb. But then he would go to the bookstore and buy Jason books on Buddhism, but be like, here, read this. And so growing up, Dad would always like, Zacharias Sitchin, what was the ancient astronaut guy, Eric von Daniken. He would go to the Wichita Public Library and the Friends of the Used Bookstores, and he would buy me all these used books. He'd be like, here, just read this. And so I start reading. I'm like, oh, Dad, this is interesting. And then when I start having like, shadow people encounters, he'd be like, well, let's talk about it. I don't know that I believe it, but let's talk about it. And, growing up, he'd be like, well, I don't know about aliens. I don't know about the Loch Ness Monster, but I can tell you Bigfoot's a thing. And so he started telling me stories about shooting Bigfoot in Vietnam. And then when I went ghost hunting, Dad was like, I don't know if I believe it, but fuck yeah, I'll go along with you. Like, let's go ghost hunting together. And so the fact that I always had this guy in my corner
Bonding.
who was always pushing me to explore more, even if he didn't totally 100% believe in it, he wasn't going to dismiss any stories that I told him, or he wasn't going to dismiss any experiences. So having that safe place with him really always pushed me to delve deeper into it, because I'm like, look, this is fucking fascinating. I mean, like, I'm Fox Mulder. I want to believe. I don't know how much of it I do, but I want to believe. And I could go have this conversation with my dad, and, even like the kids now, like, I don't know how much of it they buy into, but they know that they can come and talk to me about it. And I'm not going to be like, dude, get the fuck out of here with that. And be like, fuck yeah, Bigfoot, what do you want to know? Well, let Daddy go crack open his book right now. So
and a beer.
Yeah, let me go crack open my beer and let's talk about aliens.
Let me crack open a Cayman Jack.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, who is the Puffins? Is that Addie?
No, so, man, I feel like a total, as a father to my son's friends, I feel kind of like a dick about this story. So the other night, Blake was fortnighting with Davey, and Blake called him a crippled. And I'm like, what, does he have fucking cerebral palsy or something? And David, God rest his soul, was like, yeah, I actually do. And I was like,
David didn't die, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, I was like, I put my foot in my mouth, but he's like, no, that's cool, man. So props to like David for letting me like trash talk you as much as I do my own son. I like you. But hey, since you're commenting on our episode, get your little ass over to the like and subscribe button and subscribe to this shit. All right.
Milk it.
Okay, so the Puffins is somebody we do know. Then what's up, dude? They told me to watch my mouth. Listen to this. My mom and dad were watching in the beginning, and Preston's just dropping fuck yous left and right. So that's
nice.
Not awkward.
It's on brand.
Hey,
it's on. Yeah.
To David and my son, this is flagged as not safe for children. So how are you even on here watching this right now? I think we need to moderate your guys' YouTube privileges and see what
you just need to moderate your fucking children. That's what you need to do.
Moderate your son. He's asking us if we like glizzies. What is a glizzy? I feel like an old man.
Oh God! Listen to this old fuck. Look it up. Google it.
Man, I don't want to. Do I got to put safe search on? Am I going to be embarrassed?
I don't know. Google it. See what it comes up. Do you like glizzies?
It's a slang term for a hot dog.
Yeah.
Huh. Now, is a hot dog a hot dog, or is
like that glizzy in your throat? Glizzy gobbler?
How does Steve know all
it's
these,
like when we were in sixth
young
grade.
person talk, and Sean and I are like,
you're on the pulse, man.
I'm in the know, bro. I hang out with young peeps all day long at my job.
Word. Yeah, dude. He's the cool stepdad, man. Yeah. Taking Bentley to the arcade and shit. Also, real quick, that was one of the most endearing photos I've seen, man. The back shot of you and Bentley just standing at arcade cabinets was really heartwarming, man.
Yeah,
like,
that's
really
place
awesome.
is badass, man.
It was good to see that you said that he's never played pinball before, ever been on a pinball machine.
Mm-hmm.
And that kid
it's true.
fucking
it was
knocked
weird.
the shit out of that game. Growing up, Dad bought me and Jason like one of the big authentic pinballs. We had the $10 million man, and Abbott and Costello, like a gold digging like pinball machine from the 30s.
Wow.
We used to sit down in the basement for like hours and just be like,
That's a fucking dream of mine is to have a real pinball machine. But more now, I'd rather just get a digital one, because they're just so badass. And
Yeah.
like at the arcade, they have all these awesome pinball machines, and they just debuted Foo Fighters' new one. There's only like 4,000 or 5,000 of them
shit.
in the U.S.
That's awesome, dude. Let's
And
go
it's
play it and cry, Preston.
It's pretty
Yeah.
badass because like
Taylor.
you guys
Yeah.
know all the songs and the lore and stuff, and I mean there was people lined up to play that thing, and
Yeah,
like
I'm sure,
listening to the sounds and shit, and like Dave's talking through it, and the other band
Jesus,
members are
man.
talking. It's really cool.
Oh,
That's fucking
oh.
rad, dude.
Definitely go there, and you can just walk in and play that. You don't have to like get the wristband or nothing. You can just play.
Oh
the-
yeah, yeah.
like-
Just 50
I'm
cents
like
pop.
I'm like a Chevy right now, like a rock.
Yeah, it's cool, man. We should all go there. If we ever have a listener meetup, that's definitely a place we got to look
Oh,
into.
let's do that. That'd be fun, Steve. That's a good idea, man.
Awesome.
That's a really good idea. Well, back to the questions
We should,
here.
Kevin.
Speaking of brothers that that we like, my brother wants to know if cost was no issue, what paranormal site would you go visit? Let me kick the lid off of this one. Kev, I would take a trip to West Virginia, hands down, because we've got the Mothman.
Really, everywhere in the world.
I think so, because it's got the stuff that I love. Like we could go like to Loch Ness, shit like that. We already had our man on the street out there. Isaac was already just doing some work for us up there. But no, West Virginia, because you've got the Mothman, you've got Ingrid Cold, you've got the Flatwoods monster, you've got the Grafton monster, sheep squatch sightings, Bigfoot sightings. It's got all the fucking good stuff you want. Ghost stories galore. Like, why do I have to go all the way across the fucking globe when I can just go like, a day trip to West Virginia, man? It's got everything I've always wanted. So,
True.
what about you, Steve?
Man, I don't know. Did I even see this question?
No, I threw it in there.
Okay. Like
you sent it to me after we recorded.
You're switching
last
it
week,
up.
and I was
on me.
like, hey,
it's cool. It's a great question.
Yeah. Well, okay, Preston,
well,
you
hold
take
on.
it.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Preston. I'm still thinking.
Okay, I had to look it up because I don't remember the name of it. But dude, I'm not gonna go to any fucking place in the United States because that's not gonna cost us a fucking dick or a nickel to go to.
Yeah, that's what I was
Pleasant
thinking
Point,
too. I was like,
West Virginia.
I want to
like,
go there, but
dude, yeah, that's a
Like,
fucking
what are
that's a
you?
weekend trip, you bloob. Like Hoya Forest
Fuck, the bloob
in
look like a glizzy.
Romania. That it's it's got like occult activity going on. It's got like some weird portal to hell. People get lost for 50 years and show back up the same age they were. Like there was that guy that went in when he was 10, came back out 40 years later, was still 10 years old and didn't age a day, but somehow time had moved.
What story was that
40
we haven't talked about?
Yeah, what Benjamin
we've
Button shit is this?
Yeah, we
no
talked
shit,
about
man.
it. And then if you go to is it
7 years ago.
Yeah, if you go to
It
like
was a blurb.
Czechoslovakia, Castle Huska that we talked about, that it's the castle that was built inwards because there's like this whole pit to hell that like army of darkness vampire bats and demons were flying out of. And so those two are relatively close together. That's like you go to one and then a day's trip later you go to the other. So let's go to fucking Romania. Let's like knock this bitch out of the park, go to Europe, experience like time travel and demons and fucking army of dark.
Yeah.
I get my boomstick and be like, suck on this bitch. Bam!
But I mean, we're gonna
Pleasant
blow
West.
your wad going to the UK and to Europe.
your
I'm gonna spend my money here in the States, bud. Then we can spend all the extra money on beer and stuff. Real quick, look at me. I look like a
You're
glam
gonna be in West
Terminator.
Virginia.
Yeah.
That's all there is there. It's paranormal and beer.
Okay, there's actually a beer brewery that bases their beer on the paranormal, dude.
Yeah, I
You know what? We'll just
Green
get
Zone
we'll
or
just get
anything.
we'll just get Sean Foley loaded and just kick him in the river and be like, "Save him, Mothman, save him."
Yeah.
What?
So I got mine. It's a tie.
Okay.
Tie between I don't know. They're both just so terrifying to me. But it's also like selfish because like when I think of like where would I want to go to paranormal, because like most paranormal places, so I kind of do agree with Sean, because most paranormal places it's like, oh, you go here, oh, you're going to one spot, cool.
Mhm.
Whereas in West Virginia, like it's everywhere. So mine would either be Japan to the whatever forest.
Oh yeah,
The word not supposed to say.
yeah. Schmuschneid.
Yeah. And then the other one would be the catacombs in Paris. Just because, like,
Oh,
even though it's really
shit, man.
mainstream, and I would never attempt to go anywhere like off the. I ain't trying to be in that fucking as above, so below shit. But just like I don't know, just like anytime I go to any kind of cave, it's one of my favorite things to do. We're going to Branson next weekend. Yeah, next weekend, and I'm hoping we can do the cave without having to pay for the admittance into the park. But just like anytime I'm in a cave, dude, it's all I think about is the catacombs and stuff like Descent and shit. So it would be the catacombs of Paris or that. I can't remember the name of that forest, but it's just crazy the stuff that has happened.
It translates into death forest because everybody goes there to commit suicide or they end up missing.
No, not supposed to say the word. Thanks, YouTube.
But if I had to visit, if I had to say, if we had to plan a trip, paranormal themed in the United States, Gettysburg, because if you go during the day while there's a reenactment going on and you set up equipment at night, you can actually hear like trumpets sounding, you can hear cannon fire. So like the ghosts that haunt that area react to the reenactments, and you can get a lot of weird, creepy paranormal shit. So I would love to go to a battlefield.
That's waterproof speakers buried in the ground, homie.
Yeah. I'd like to go. I'd like to go to a battlefield to check that shit out. But people say that in the middle of the night, you can actually see, ghost soldiers like walk across the road that you can see through, and they like disappear. And there's all sorts of crazy shit. So I'd waste a weekend trip on that, and it's not going to cost us any money. So,
a Yokigahara forest.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's right. Like on that in Gettysburg, that'd be another reason that I want to go to a place like Auschwitz, for lots of reasons. But I mean, there's gotta be paranormal stuff somewhere like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even though,
like we talked about last
what to go
episode.
for, but it's like
Right.
it'd just be so wild.
Yeah, like we talked about last time with the stone tape theory. Like, there's enough atrocities that happened there that like energy was bound to have gotten caught up at that location. Dude.
Yeah.
Most
I'm gonna
then like plantations and shit back in the day.
I'm gonna old man Sean real quick though. If we go to Auschwitz, we can't be like all those fucking kids that go to Auschwitz and then take pictures on the railroad tracks like they're sitting there like ooh like.
Well, here's the thing. I think I talked about this on here before. When Katie got me those tickets to go to the Kansas City one, that's the thing I was blown away by the most is the respect when you're inside the event. Outside the event, there were people outside the event that were kind of mimicking the trains and stuff, but like inside the event, it was really, really respectful. So I would hope that inside the event, but then again, I have seen clips of people at Auschwitz doing stupid things, but it's just like, man.
And you do got to watch that stuff because who was it? Like Jake or Logan Paul got goofed up
in the forest
because they're in the forest and something happened, and I don't know if they were filming if they were filming somebody oofed them. Somebody just oofed themselves.
Somebody, that had just done that, and then they kind of like filmed it and was like, "Oh, I can't believe what I just saw." Like clearly, like you're still filming that and you walk away from it, you still chose to upload that. It's just greasy,
Exactly.
Especially make money off of it. It's so lame.
Well, folks, how about another listener story? Our final listener story for the 7-year anniversary. A story so chilling and deeply impactful that Preston and I both argue whether or not we've shared it before.
Okay, Steve, listen to the details of this story. I swear to God, we covered it. And Sean wants to argue with me. He didn't save the fucking show notes from like 4 or 5 years ago, so we're arguing that on one of our anniversaries, we covered this. So I need you to back one of us up. I don't care if I'm wrong, he's right, but you need to get in the corner. Fist up, brother. Fist up.
Yep.
Nux, let's go.
Right. Okay, so real quick, I keep listener stories that get sent to us via email in a special folder. This one was in a folder that said listener stories. I then would move them into another folder that was categorized that we had already burned them. So this one was still in the listener story folder, and I assumed that it was a newer story. Anyway, guys, this is from an anonymous listener. the little kid that lived behind us. When I was younger, maybe 4 or 5, we lived in an Air Force base in Texas. I don't remember where exactly, though, but when we lived there, we lived in the base housing where active military members and families lived. And I know that I was young and all, but I still remember these dreams I would have pretty often, where I would be out playing in the backyard with my family. Then, all of a sudden, I would start floating up into the air. I would start yelling for my parents to help me, but they wouldn't hear me.
Oh my
And they
god.
wouldn't be paying any attention. So I'd just start floating up into the sky, past the power lines and up above the trees. And I could see all the roofs of the houses, and I would just keep floating on up and up and up until everything would just fade to black. And then I would wake up. Anyway, all the backyards connected and were separated by chain link fences. I remember that we had a house on each side of us on the left and the right, and that we had a house behind us too. The people living next to us on either side were one Caucasian family and the other one Hispanic. And the family behind us were Asian. This little note is important. The Caucasian family had 2 kids, but they were a little younger than I was. They were maybe like 3 or 4. But I remember them just being able to walk, but still a little wobbly. The Hispanic couple were younger, maybe in their 20s, with no kids. But the Asian family that lived behind us had a little boy about my age named Nefu. And I remember thinking it was a funny name because to me it sounded like nephew. And so I assumed I was his uncle, and I called him my little nephew. I remember always going back to the backyard to play with Nefu by the back fence. We would throw a ball back and forth or play with my Ghostbusters or He-Man toys and pretended like they were climbing the fence, or other times we would just sit there cross-legged and talk. He was my best friend, but there was also something strange about him. What I'm about to say next kind of sounds bad, but just stick with me because it's not, I swear. There was something about his eyes that I remember being different than mine. Like they were a little bigger than mine and kind of slanted, which was kind of funny to me. One day I even asked my mom if she knew anybody that had slanted eyes, and I did that shitty thing where I pulled the corners of my eyes to make them squinty. I know, super shitty and racist, but I was like 5 and this was the 80s. My mom laughed and told me that that wasn't nice, but I was describing someone that sounded like they were from Asian descent. So I told her, oh, okay, guess what? I have a friend from Asia. And she just smiled and said, oh, well, that's nice, or something like that, and went back to doing whatever she was doing. Nefu and I would go on playing with each other through the fence for about 1.5 years until my family and I moved out of the base housing. My dad got a new set of orders, so we packed up all of our things, and my family moved to a different state. The day that we left, I was sad that I was leaving my friend Nefu, and that I would never see him again, and I cried while we were pulling out of the little town that we lived in.
Oh.
My dad asked what I was so sad about, and I should be excited for new adventure. I told him that I was sad because I was going to miss my friend Nefu that lived behind us. Years later, maybe 20 or so, I was at my parents' house, and my mom was telling me about how she'd recently reconnected on Facebook with the mom of one of the families that we lived next to on the base. And it dawned on me that maybe Mom remembered the last name of the Asian family that lived behind us, and I could try to track down my old friend Nefu. So I asked her if she could remember the Asian family's name that had the little boy who lived behind us. But she just stared at me with this look, puzzled. She thought for a moment and then told me something that still gives me goosebumps now and again. There wasn't any family that lived behind us. There was just an empty field. No, I remember Nefu clear as day. He was almost my age, had the funny eyes, and his family lived in the house behind us. Nope. Mom still insisted that no, there was just a field. But I even remember the house. It looked just like ours, but just backwards. So, not believing my mom, a few days later, when I went back to my parents' house, I waited until my mom was out of the room and asked my dad if he remembered the Asian family that lived behind us with the little boy. Nope. Dad remembered both families that lived on each side of us, their first and last names, and even 2 or 3 of the families that lived across the street. But he said the same damn thing. No one lived behind us. And even furthermore, Dad didn't recall any Asian families being in the neighborhood at all. What the fuck? And here's what's weirder though. When I would have those dreams about floating up, like I said before, I could see all the rooftops of the houses in our neighborhood. And guys, there wasn't any rooftops behind us. So what the fuck, who the fuck, or maybe better yet, what the fuck was Nefu? An imaginary friend? Oh, also, the dream stopped after we moved to the new state. So by now you guys are probably thinking what I'm thinking. Big slanted eyes, floating into the sky. Was I being abducted out of my own backyard? Keep up the great show, stay spooky, my best, Anonymous.
Yeah, I'm thinking what Kevin's thinking. Kevin says, this sounds vaguely familiar. Thanks, Kevin, for having my back, dog. You're my favorite brother.
Okay, now let me just see that and raise you this, Kevin. We lived in base housing, so maybe that's why it sounds familiar. You know? Now we both have to really dig deep down and figure out if we had Asian neighbors that live behind us, Kev.
Yeah, this does not this doesn't ring a bell to me. But then again, I can't remember shit. So
look at that.
But I don't know,
Right,
man.
so, it's still split. All right, you got Steve in your corner, and I got Kevin in his underwear and Legos in the other corner. I think I might pull out for the win. I think I might pull out for the win.
Yeah,
Rob will be the deciding factor. I'll get a text message at like 2 a.m. when he's getting off work or about midnight when he's getting off work. And that story, he'll tell me whether it's true or not. Kevin, or whether we listen to it or not. Sorry.
Kevin, stop talking right now. You're adding fuel to the fire. Well, that's what I was thinking. No, don't let Sean know that you were thinking that maybe it might be familiar because you lived in base housing.
Oh.
Kevin, you're in my corner. Just stop.
Stop while you're ahead.
I mean, I think I got you. By the short and curlies. Okay, from our buddy Adam. I think it'd be a good time to have you and Preston give us a rundown on your history with paranormal / UFO stuff and what got you guys interested in the first place. I'm sure that it's been covered, but after 7 years, a refresher would be nice. So that question kind of piggybacks. That question piggybacks on what Israel had asked, so I kind of throttled myself and didn't give away everything at the beginning. So for me, man, I said it time and time again, first of all the spooky books at the Jefferson Elementary Library, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark were a big one for me because those things will fucking scar you for life. Goosebumps, another shout out to my 3rd and 4th grade teacher, Francis Barrier. After, comic books were kind of, being questioned, we had Scholastic Book Fairs. I saw Goosebumps in the Scholastic Book Fair, and I was the Goosebump king, dude. I bought the box set, books 1 through 4. I bought the second box set, 5 through 8. I was the kid, dude. Book fair. Get your whole, load of books you ordered. I'd always have 4 or 5 Goosebumps, man. Holler at your
bro. You had stock in fucking Scholastic, homie.
Right? So, okay, there's 2 things that really predominantly make me think about UFOs and aliens. Number 1 has to be, I don't know when it was anymore, what age I was, but I remember I was watching a documentary about UFOs, and I went to bed thinking, like, gee, I hope I don't get abducted. And then I remember waking up sitting cross-legged in my bed
with a probe up my butt,
cross-legged on my bed at my parents' house in the basement. And what was strange is the room's completely dark. I'm sitting cross-legged on the bed. I realize for however long I'm just staring at the empty doorway out into the family room. And I think, well, that's weird. Why am I looking outside of the family room? And so I go to lean back and lay back down on my bed, and I flipped out of the bed onto my head and my ass on the floor. I had woken up sitting cross-legged on my bed, sitting perpendicular to how you normally would in a bed. And then to make shit even weirder, when I went around my bed and turned the light on, my bed was made better than I would normally make any bed that I slept in. So I don't know what it was. I could have slept, walked, I could have slept, made my bed. I don't fucking know. But it definitely made me think, oh shit, what the fuck just happened? And then furthermore, the story I've told time and time again is at my grandma's house, laying on the air mattress in her house in the, summer evening and hearing some weird noises outside, and then basically getting like the sleep paralysis where I watched this gray, big bobble-headed thing outside my grandma's back door, and then all of a sudden, like it's in front of the door, and all of a sudden it's like in the kitchen, and then it's just like rushing towards me, and it jumped at me, and I raised my hands. I told that story; it'll be really familiar. I told it better when we were talking to Lazarus, but yeah, those two things really made me think, like, what the fuck, man? Aliens and UFOs are terrifying. And I mean, I went down the rabbit hole reading the Betty Andreessen abduction story, reading Communion, renting both of those from the library, and any other like UFO and alien book I could find from like, fourth or fifth grade up through like middle school was when I was really hard and heavy into it. And still as an adult, man, I got like 30 or 40 books now or more. And yep, still into it, still digging it. So what about you, Presto?
I mean, it's the same answer as I gave 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I know.
It's Big John Wiener, read this book. And so that's really kind of what got me started down that rabbit hole. And then, when it comes to like ghost hunting and stuff, when I met you, when we were sharing paranormal stories, swapping tales, I was watching Paranormal Witness one night, and one of the stories on there just really hit home. And, the evidence that they were showing on the show, I was like, look, if these fuckers can do it and prove to a certain degree that it probably happened, I should be able to do this. And that, after talking with you, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go get this recorder. I'm gonna read these books. I'm gonna do these things. And Dad was super supportive of that. The one night that we went to Bella Vista and El Dorado, he wanted to tag along.
Dude,
even though
for
he
sure.
wouldn't get his fucking old ass out of the truck as he's being a pussy about it. He was just like, let me know what your boys find. I'm gonna hang back.
He's still gonna waste his time walking.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang back here. And my brother was the same way. Being Buddhist, he's like, I don't know if I believe in this. And then I took him to a cemetery one afternoon. We were out in the middle of this country, middle of nowhere, dirt roads all around us, no houses around us, no trains. And we're walking around the cemetery, just me and him, and I'm doing the thing like, if anybody's here, you feel like talking to us, please leave us a message. My brother doesn't believe in any of this, so try to prove to him as much as you can that this is real. We're walking around like 20, 30 minutes. Every inch of the cemetery, every corner, I'm saying the exact same thing. And I go back to the recording, and about 20 minutes in, you hear me say all these things like, hey, prove to my brother that this is real. And you hear this very distinct male voice. It's really gurgly, and it's like, Christ is dead. And I'm just like, well, there you go. So I chopped up that audio file. I sent it to Jason and said, you were there with me that day. We were out in the country. It was just me and you. That's not my voice. That's not your voice. Fucking prove to me what that was, if that was not something tied to the paranormal. And he was like, holy shit, I'm a ghost hunter. And
I'm a ghost hunter.
Yeah, so I like to think that I opened his eyes a little bit. I gave him a safe place where we could go and explore. Now, we've been on other ghost hunts where he's been a little bit embarrassing because I thought I got an EVP, and it was just him being excited that the house they were in had a cat, and he's sitting there whispering sweet nothings to the cat.
Oh yeah, my friend Sarah's house. That was so funny.
Yeah, that was hilarious. But so I've experienced things that you really are hard to dismiss. When we were in Sarah's house and we were doing this investigation, they had an armoire in the dining room. Now the family's out at the park. They're away from the house, and it's just me, Jeffrey, and Jason, and we're in this house. And as we're leaving, you hear this scrape across the floor, and you can see this 200-pound, 300-pound armoire just moved like 2 inches away from the wall, and nobody could explain that. And You know, I've been in cemeteries at night doing investigations where I feel like I've been touched, and I go back on the recording, and right where I say, like, I feel like somebody just touched me, you hear a voice out of nowhere say something. It's hard for me to dismiss those things, and so I every time one of those experiences happens, it just pushes me a little bit further down the rabbit hole of I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that there's something there, and there's more to explore, and there's more to deep dive. And then you start diving into, you know, American folklore with Bigfoots and skinwalkers and Mothmans and Messy Nessies and all that. And it's fucking fascinating. I mean, I could spend a lifetime doing. We've been at this 7 years. I could honestly spend a lifetime talking about this stuff. That's how much it just fucking touches my soul.
There you go.
That's awesome, dude.
Steve, what about you, man? What got you down the UFO alien?
Kind of the same thing. I mean, like I said, movies, video games. That was definitely the thing. Obviously, Fire in the Sky. There's another movie I've tried to find it so many times. It was such a weird movie. It was a VHS I used to rent at Dylan's back in the day. It had like the old type of like house, like I don't know, house built like maybe in like the 40s, like a country house. And it was like white, and then there was an alien light above it that would beam down and then make the brightness go up above it. And there was this like scene where she would be abducted, and then the aliens would be doing experiments on it, and then she kept having this dream that she was pregnant and having this alien baby. And I remember that hybrid alien human baby was so freaking creepy. And like that
wasn't Visitors in the Night.
I don't think so.
I thought we solved this problem back in like.
I think we might have. I think I might have found it on YouTube. Intruders or something.
Yeah, Intruders or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be that. I need to rewatch it. But yeah, that would be it. It's just movies, man. So it's kind of piggyback off of the same question. Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Most definitely, man. Most definitely. Hell yeah. Well, we're coming around the bend here, guys. The last question from Isaac, and don't worry, folks, it's a 4-part question. Number 1, Steve, do you want to be abducted by aliens?
I've said this before on the show and definitely in convo. I honestly, I think it'd be awesome, but it would be extremely terrifying. Obviously, for just the experience of it, like I don't think that'd be like anything exciting or pleasurable. It'd be pretty damn fucking scary. Yeah. But more so the fact of coming home and knowing something like that happened to you, and whether it was traumatic or it was amazing or whatever the hell the case may be, it doesn't matter. No one's gonna fucking believe you.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And even if people do believe you, they're still gonna have that doubt. They're still gonna look at you different. Even if they do fully believe you, they're still gonna look at you different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's one of the chosen one. But so yeah, that just sounds miserable to me. But then again, like that would give you such a jolt in life, you know? Hopefully for the best, but could definitely sway to the worst. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Definitely scary.
Said it again. You're right. I've said the quote before, but there's a Dave Matthews quote about what would if Martians fell from the sky, what would it do to God? And that's one of the craziest things, man, is like it just changes your perception of everything if you were to encounter one of these things, man. My answer is no, I don't, but yes, I do. But no, I don't think I want to, but maybe, but probably not. But maybe.
You're insane. You're gaslighting.
Yep. Preston, what about you, man?
I mean, I think it depends on what type of alien abduction we're dealing with. If it's like the Marcel Duchamp, where he got abducted to the planet of Theuba, and he was hanging out with some he-she's in a ship, and he got to see some Fallout 76 shit with some Asian-looking people on a planet and, you know, giant ants. Fuck yeah, dude, take me on that adventure. Like, that's what I want. If it's more like Fire in the Sky, where they're shoving shit up my ass and, like, doing experiments on me, I'm probably going to have to back out a little bit on that and say, that's not for me, dog. You know, my buddy Steve over here, that might be his thing. Go to his house and get him. But if we're going on a time-traveling adventure like Rick and Morty, sign me up.
Morty.
Well, you guys remember the story we did? Gosh, it might have been one of the first late night episodes. There was Dave Huggins, who was the guy who would paint the photos of his sexual encounters with aliens. I mean, that
I
didn't
think I do
sound
remember
that
that.
bad. Didn't sound too bad at all. So maybe I do,
Yeah.
but I don't. But I mean, maybe holler at your boy.
Let me look at that
Um,
subreddit real quick.
Boom shakalaka. Okay, cool. Question number 2: if you become a ghost after you die, where are you haunting, and what is your MO?
Hmm.
I'll go first. I'm just gonna haunt my friends, and it's just gonna be general tomfoolery. I'm gonna be stacking chairs in your kitchen, a la Poltergeist. When you leave the room, I'm gonna, move the remote somewhere else. I'm gonna hide your valuables. I'm gonna move dolls and toys really, really slow. I'm just gonna fucking just drive you nuts. That's my MO, man. Just sheer controlled chaos. What about you, Presto?
I'm haunting the kids, and I'm gonna like because Dad used to always say like me and Jason were out to get us treasures and to throw shit away. So like after I die, I know that realistically like 60% of my shit's gonna be gone, and so I'm just gonna like pop up
Mhm.
in like the most inopportune time and be like, "You threw away my treasures," and then Obi-Wan Kenobi the fuck out, and just basically just troll my kids for the rest of
They
their
become
lives.
hoarders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No shit. Hey, I got to give a shout out real quick to you and your dad. I have a John Wiener treasure right here. You gave me a pretty
Fuck.
neat set, partial
Yeah.
set of these United Postal Service monster stamp enamel pins. There's like a couple more I
tight.
got to find, but yeah, dude, I love these things so much. But Steve, what are you doing? Where are you haunting and why?
Oh yeah. Well, I can't give the perv answer, so I'm gonna go with the stoner answer.
Right. We're all just gonna dance around that.
Yeah. Let's do. I'll do the stoner answer. I would just mess with stoners while they're getting stoned. Just fuck with them. I think that'd
Haunted
be so.
bong.
Yeah, just it'd be so cool.
A haunted grinder. That's
Yeah.
cool. Hell
Yeah.
yeah, man. Shit,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, Steve. Is it
Cool.
cheating if you get down and dirty with a ghost?
Um.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, like it's the same question as above. Like, can't really give a pervy answer, but so I don't know. Like, I don't think it's cheating to get on the ghost because it's not fucking consensual.
Mm.
There you go. So let's not dance around that. So I think it's unwanted advances by a ghost, but some people are into that. So I won't kink shame you or nothing of that sort.
Yeah.
But
Paraphilia. Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard all that stories about the succubus, incubus thing and
Mm-hmm.
paralyzed stuff. No, that shit all sounds terrifying. So
Yeah.
that
I
ghost
said
person-
paraphilia. It's called sphincterophilia. I'm an idiot.
Sorry.
Preston, what about you, man? Cheating with a ghost? Is it or isn't
Well,
it?
it depends. Now, if I don't see the ghost and the ghost is not visible, then
Oh my god,
I'm
John.
I'm thinking to myself like I just mastered some weird tantric sex ritual shit. Like, look at me, boom! But if I see the ghost, I would feel guilt. I'd be like, oh my god, I can't believe I did this thing. So, I mean, it's 50-50 split down the room.
Oh.
Yeah.
John says ghost busting has an entirely new meaning.
Yeah.
Ghost bussing.
Busting, straight busting.
I mean, hey, dude, speaking of Ghostbusters, there is that, very, 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 very famous scene where Dan Aykroyd is just getting a mouth hug from a specter. So,
Oh yeah.
I think it all
Gross, I
comes down
forgot.
to consent, man. It all comes down to consent. If you consensually partake, I think it's cheating. If something happens unbeknownst to you or your will, begs a question. All right, final hard-hitting question, folks, to close out the episode. Which is worse, ghost syphilis or real herpes?
This is the last question of the fucking episode. Thanks, Isaac.
Yeah.
Make it a special one. This is
Man,
my
I
answer.
think-
This is literally what I wrote.
Uh-huh.
This is real shit. LMAO. Or no, is this real shit? LMAO.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking syphilis, dude, because still, like, syphilis can come back. And what's going to be bad about ghost syphilis is like, you're going to go to your doctor and be like, Doc, I got these weird fucking ulcers on my dick or my, my vagina or wherever.
He opens it up and he just sees like the ghosts from Pac-Man, like a bunch of them. Oh, you have
Either
ghost
A,
syphilis.
they're going to lift the robe and you're just going to see, ooh.
Here, take some of these pellets and
Yeah. Or he's going to look, the doctor's going to look, could be a girl doctor. And there's nothing there. And then you get out to your car and look down and, it's like Poltergeist where the guy's like just ripping his own face off. Like you just got pustulous boils all over your junk. I think ghost syphilis. Preston, what do you think, man?
Man,
Ghost
I'm gonna agree,
syphilis, real herpes.
here's the thing, like real herpes, I mean, it's probably not fun, but you can take some pills for that, control that shit that way. What medication are they going to give you for ghost syphilis? Am I going to have to drink like holy water and sage juice for the rest of my life? Am I going to have to go dip my pecker in salt every other morning? Like, you can't guarantee me that you can cure that or at least subside the what's going on with my dick snot ghost version. So there's no guarantees with that. At least with real herpes, there's a guarantee that you can just boop. I mean, you'll be good for a week, dog. Go have fun. What do I do if I got the ghost?
Quality content here, boys.
Yeah. Preston's gonna go to a communion or a mass, and like you're just gonna hear this weird splashing during the dead quiet parts, and Preston's back there just dipping his dick in the holy water bird bath.
And I mean, think about that. Is like, what? How do you fix that? Do you go to a priest and be like, dude, exercise my penis? Like, I don't know that there's a priest out there that's gonna do that.
I need a sexorcism.
Yeah.
We might need to copyright that, boys.
Yeah. Or idiot flag.
Yeah.
I need you to perform a dickercism. Right. Hurry up. Come on. Get the demons out.
That's what I'm doing. I'm just getting the demons out.
That would be a good porno video game.
What?
The Dickercist.
A game?
Yeah, it would just go around just...
You've heard of Goat Simulator. How about Sexorcist Simulator?
Yeah.
Too hot for
being
TV.
The ghost out, man.
Yeah, look at that.
This is the best priest in town. 2 tugs and guaranteed to get it out. Come on.
Jesus, John should be a comedian. Listen, Jesus. Preston joined Ashley Madison for ghosts.
Right.
He's good. He's fucking with it tonight.
Man,
Father 2 Tug Doug, man. Yep. Yeah. Well, we want to thank everybody who wrote in with your questions, with your stories, also with everybody who kind of hung out with us live while we did these recordings. It's been a blast. We had absolutely the most interactions with these last 2 episodes. Really appreciate it. Big shout out to Lazarus Corbeau for jumping on with us and giving us that bonus content. This has been a lot of fun. We really appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody, especially you 2 guys and Rob as well, man. It's been a hell of a lot of fun for 7 years. It's just a stupid little hobby. I should probably promote the hell out of it, and I just don't, because to me, I'm just goofing with my buddies. But been a lot of fun. Paranormal Highway is still very long. There's lots to cover, so I don't think we're going anywhere anytime soon. Knock on wood. But the friends we've made along the way, everybody helping out. I definitely want to get back to doing some, stuff, live on the scene, some ghost hunting and stuff like that. I want to do some more roundtable stuff with John and Leslie. And of course, the Paranormal Dot Cafe is going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, that's my little ramble. Appreciate everybody. A lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
Cool. Well, if you're on the old social medias, please give us a follow on Instagram. We are at PXL Paranormal. We are hovering at 799 followers. By God, we're so close to 800, getting closer to 1,000 every day. On Facebook, we are the Pixelated Paranormal Podcast. Please like and subscribe. If you're listening to us on Apple, please leave us a review and a rating. We'd love to read those on air if you would do that for us. Preston, what do you got on YouTube, man? Are we growers or showers?
A little bit of both. We're at 263 subscribers, so we've gone up by 1 since last, week. So
hell yeah,
we're moving that needle
points
a little bit at a time.
Yep.
So if you're watching the live show tonight, David, like and subscribe, little buddy. Maybe don't let your grandparents know that you listen to the show, because I don't want any phone calls of why are you Why are you talking to my son like this? So.
Preston, we just want to know why David came home and at the dinner table he was talking about ghost syphilis.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, like, I don't
That
know where he
sounds
got
like
it from. Must be something weird at school, you know. Parent
You
your
know,
kid better.
you know
Leave me
kids
out
on
of it.
YouTube, they can watch
Yeah.
anything.
That doesn't
Preston
look
starts
like
censoring
me.
his
What are you
face from
talking
now
about?
on.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, good stuff, man. John says, congratulations, guys. My brother says, heck yeah, congratulations. It's been a fun ride. Keep it going. Fantastic, guys. Fantastic stuff. What do you got on Daubers?
Look, guys. Sensual love, go sensual love, real herpes, go syphilis. No matter what you're getting or how you're getting it, you got to up your game. And the only way to up your game is if you go over to BigDobsBeardBomb.com and use promo code PXLPARA for 20% off your order. You can get yourself scents like bay rum, fresh, citrus, mint, classic, sweet tobacco. And if you're into the oils, which why shouldn't you be, he's got the barrel aged. Oh my God, it makes me smell like a man. So
I've never tried that.
you should
try
try
that.
it. Get it all. Get it at Dobbs.
All right. If you're in the Wichita area, please see our beloved friend Leslie and the rest of the gang at CD Trade Post, Seneca.com. Pawnee and Seneca.
PawneeandSeneca.com.
And
go
John
there.
said Nixon gave him ghost cooties.
That website.
So
Ooh, the
watch
ghost
out, John.
coots. Yep. It's the bitches that'll get you, John. All right. That about does it for this episode. I got a little pickle beer left in my glass, so I raise this and say cheers to the weird shit in the world and those of us that love to talk about it.
And stay spooky and stay on the paranormal highway.
Rest in peace, Tina Turner.
And Preston's.
The cast at Pixelated Paranormal would like to thank you for listening to this week's episode. Pixelated Paranormal is here to tell you tales of the fantastical, the strange, the unknown. Tales that will move you a little further down the paranormal highway. If you'd like to share your own listener story, we would love to hear it. Email us at pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. Again, that's pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you. Again, thanks for listening to this week's episode of Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.